Hey everybody, welcome back to Low Life Plays. This is another Decktech. On this one, more Avatar coming at you. This one is going to be Toph, the first metal bender. I've been messing with this one for a minute, going between artifacts, landfall, trying to get the mixture right, and I think I've got it to a good point. It definitely plays like a Naya control list, but I've had a blast playing it, and if you enjoy abusing artifacts and doing wacky things like that, then I think this list was for you. So let's just jump into it. So Toph, the first metal bender, is a legendary human warrior ally, 3/3, for 1, a red, a green, and a white. And what really separates this is non-token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. Most importantly, they do not tap for mana, they are just lands. At the beginning of your end step, Earthbend 2. So now that we've gone through that, let's go through kind of what we're doing here. So we're going to ramp, a lot of it's going to be artifact based, which are also lands. So we're going to use Soul Ring, Birds of Paradise, Mind Stone, and the fun thing about these artifacts, what we really look for is things that can sacrifice themselves for value, because you earthbend Mind Stone, and then you draw a card, it comes back tapped. So it can just be really, really excellent to just cycle and loot through this. So Mind Stone, excellent, early game comes down, gives you something to earthbend. So it's an interesting balance that you maintain of early things that can just loot for value, and then big endgame effects that when you sacrifice them just have heavy impact. Liquid Metal Torque, it ramps you, and it can also turn Toph into an artifact, so you can earthbend her, and then just give her some protection. But it's also just a nice little rock that has that nice protection suite added to it. Arcane Signet, pretty classic. Commander Sphere, excellent here because we can sack this and just draw cards and loot that. Chromatic Lantern. So I'm not a huge fan of Chromatic Lantern, but in this list I really like it for its main ability to give our land artifacts. Now they have the ability to tap for mana. So now all of these things that we're animating, and even Toph herself, if we turned her into an artifact, now they can all tap for mana, which can be really nice. And, you know, for 3, it's a rock that, in this instance, does give a lot of value, so I think it makes a lot of sense. Same thing with Dryad of the Elysian Grove. This one, you can play an additional land, which is cool, but really it's in here for the lands are every basic land type. So this is going to give all your artifacts the ability to tap for mana, which can be really excellent here. You can run more of these types of effects. In my initial iteration, I tried that, but I found I didn't really need it that often, so I'm running 2 that have additional synergy to other aspects of the deck. Lumbering World Wagon. So this is one of the effects I really like, where it is an artifact that, it has this crazy ability to just crew for 4, and then it's just an X4, where X is the number of lands you control, which counts all your artifacts if Toph is out, so it can get pretty massive pretty quick, but really it's in here because when it enters or attacks, you can go search for a basic, put it into play tapped. So it can just ramp you on the enters, which is really nice, so we can sack it, or get it killed somehow, and do it that way. Same thing here, Heaped Harvest. When it enters, and when you sacrifice it, though, which is excellent, you can search for a basic, put it into play, and it has its own built-in sacrifice, which is great. Growing Rights of Itlamok. This can ramp you pretty crazy, just because we do just run a lot of little guys, and it can get out there pretty fast. And this can just help turn over, and then just have this huge Gaia's Cradle effect, which can be pretty excellent. Loot, Exuberant Explorer. I'm a big fan of Loot. I run it in I run in a lot of decks just because I really like the 4 tap ability too, where it lets you play additional lands. It's a 1/4 for 3, which can be great in the early game to help block, and you can just start looking for creature cards, which can be really nice. Sad Boy. So Solemn, easy here. It has an enters and a dies trigger. Enters, ramps you, dies, draws cards. If I could find all the cards that do this, that's a lot of what the deck would be, and then finishers. Blossoming Tortoise. This one, flex slot, I'm trying it out. I think it works pretty good here. So when it enters or attacks, you mill 3 cards and then return a land, which can be nice ramp. But really, I like the activated abilities of your lands cost 1 less. And it also buffs them, but this really just helps when we are abusing some artifacts that have tap or whatever abilities that pay mana tap, whatever. It can just make them cheaper. Esper Sentinel. I mean, you just earthbend this, and now it's a 3/3. And you can just keep earthbending this and protecting it, and it is a menace. Esper Sentinel already historically draws a lot of cards, and it also draws a lot of aggro. But as soon as you earthbend it, it is very difficult to remove. And you can have this thing stick around for a very long time. So, Esper Sentinel, really excellent all-star in this deck. Ichor Wellspring, classic enters, dies, draw a card. I did have the other Wellspring, the Mycosynth Wellspring in here, or the other one that lets you ramp. I found that this deck didn't really need that. Horn of Greed, whenever a player plays a land, that player draws a card. So yes, this is symmetrical across the board, so it will benefit your opponents, but we are going to be just, any of our 1-drop, 2-drop artifacts with Toph out are going to be drawing us cards now, which is just insane. So we like Horn of Greed a lot. Brass's Tunnel Grinder. This one, I'm a big fan. I've run it in a lot of red decks. I like the fact that I can just pitch anything that I don't think is important right now, and then draw that many +1, and then it's pretty easy to flip into the land that lets you discover, which can be pretty useful too. I've actually won a game by discovering into one of our win conditions, and it can be pretty nice, pretty nice. All Fate Scroll. All of our lands and all of our artifacts are going to be differently named lands, so you can sacrifice this and draw X cards, where X is the number of differently named lands you control. So really nice, just huge burst card draw that we can recur and taps for mana. Really, really crazy stuff. All right, Survey Mechan. This is one of the all-stars of this list for sure. It does everything that we need in a control-style list. It does targeted damage, it draws us cards, it gains us life, and it costs X less just based on the number of differently named lands you control. Oftentimes you can get this easily to 2, 3, even 0. Because it doesn't get reduced to 1 minimum, you can get it down to 0 pretty easily, and then you just earthbend this and you have constant card draw, removal, and life gain, and it is a huge menace. Definitely one of the best cards in the list. Haywire Might, same thing here. This one it's very, very synergistic with exiling removal, so you can get rid of non-creature artifacts and enchantments, which can be really excellent because those are pretty hard to get rid of. And we do have a lot of wipes, and we'll get into that later, but having this early game targeted exile removal can be really nice. So Oblivion Stone. So a lot of our wraths are going to be focused on non-land permanents to be very one-sided. But Oblivion Stone, the big thing here is it's an artifact wrath. So you can put this out early and then start putting out counters, which with the Tortoise, these can be easier, can be cheaper to do. And then you can wrath this, and then it comes back if it's earthbent. So then you can just have this recurable board wipe, which can draw removal to this instead of some of the other key pieces that you might have. And it can also just keep everybody tempoed out while you can build your resources. Same thing with Cataclysmic Gearhulk. This thing has been an absolute menace when I've put it in and I've actually got it to play. It can just shut people down. You drop it when it enters. Each player chooses artifact, creature, and enchantment in Planeswalker, and what's very important here is from among the non-land permanents they control. So it really is incredibly one-sided, and it's a sacrifice wipe, so it dodges removal, hexproof, any of that stuff. So this has just really come in very, very key to just really control the board state, and it's an artifact creature, so you can loop it with Toph and earthbending it. Planar Cleansing, there's other ones, but there's better ones, but I just really liked the art, and I've had this forever, and I wanted to actually run it and destroy all non-land permanents. That's the word I'm looking for. Just let's wipe the board. So we are running a few sacrifice outlets to just kill our own artifacts or lands. So Zuran Orb, best one. You can protect it with metal bending, which is excellent, but it just sacrifices a land, you draw 2 life. Super, super good. Sylvan Safekeeper, sack a land, give Shroud to something, which can be really nice too. I'm running Arcbound Ravager because it can protect itself by being an artifact, and then it can also sacrifice other artifacts, make itself bigger, which can be really good, and then it also has modulars, so starts off, but it's really in here just for the easy access to sacrifice. Side quest, Catch a Fish. So I'm testing this one out too. I think it'd be pretty good because at the beginning, I mean, it's a 3-drop, and then it doesn't do. I don't really enjoy things that don't do something the turn they come down, but this one has enough to offer that I think it's pretty cool. So you pay 3. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's an artifact or creature card, you can reveal it, put it in your hand, and if you put a card in your hand this way, create a food token and transform the enchantment. So it can just do some nice card draw there, and it transforms rather quickly into Cooking Campsite, which is just pay 3, and you can sacrifice an artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And it also is a mana rock. So it can be just nice. If you want to try any other artifact or land-based sacrifice thing there, you could definitely swap it out. No problem there. So then we're going to run, we have 2 specific cards here that are going to be doubling Toph's triggers. This is definitely the best one because we can protect it, and It enters with 3 film counters on it. You pay 2 and tap it, remove a film counter, and copy target activated or triggered ability you control. You can choose new targets for the copy. So you copy her earthbending trigger, and then you can protect multiple things or just really start, really rolling away with it. And then we're also running Annie Joins Up, which still an enchantment, so pretty difficult to remove historically, so we can run this. And it comes in, can just nuke something for 5 damage, which can be cool, and then it just does it naturally. This one isn't just one trigger, it copies any triggered or ability of a legendary creature you control. So, really, really nice there. And then we're going to run through our more cantrippy cards. So these are just going to be, you can really flush this out with however many or different 1-drop value artifacts that you would like to run. These are just the ones I chose. So Barrels of Blasting Jelly. This one, it can filter color, so that can be okay, but really it's in here just for the pay 5 and just it's removal now. And it's recurable removal if it's protected, which can be nice. Bacillus Skullbomb. So this one, this is really in here mainly just to draw a card. So you can drop it, it can trigger all your landfalls, it can trigger anything else, but draw a card, and then if you pay a little extra into it, you can just do some extra benefits, give something flying, still draw a card, which can be nice, but can really draw some stuff. And since it's not a tap, it's not one tap sack it, you can do a little bit of bursty card draw when if you have it metal bent, you can just sack it, it comes back, pay another, sack it again, draw 2 cards, and then it's gone. But if you really needed to just get your hand back or get some more cards and really start kind of getting back into the game, these are some good options to do that. Maze Skullbomb, same kind of thing here. Instead of flying, it gives trample, and then it gives a little bit of extra of a buff, but it's really just in here to just draw some cards. Candy Trail, it scries, and it has its own built-in sack outlet, which is great. You could also run any of like the eggs. Those are also good. I mean, I'm running a few, like Chromatic Sphere. Just pay 1, filter a mana, and then draw a card. And then Chromatic Star, same thing, right? Pay 1, tap, filter a mana, draw a card. And then I'm running 2 just separate earthbending things. So I am running Earth Shape. This is more protection than anything else, right? Earthbend 3, then each creature you control with power less than or equal to that land's power gains hexproof and indestructible until end of turn, and then you also gain hexproof. So it can be really nice against maybe a giant fireball or any of these other like targeted things that are just going to take you out, but it can also protect Toph because she is 3. So you earthbend, and then boom, now that's good. So it can be really nice. Then we're going to run Boomy Unleashed. Boomy is just wild. He just has so much value, and it's another really nice earthbending source. Earthbend's 4, which can be cool. And then it has this extra added ability. Whenever Boomy deals combat damage to a player, untap all lands you control. And then after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Really, he's just in here because he's just a nice big earthbender with that crazy untap all lands you control ability. Terra Eternal. Just 3-drop, now all of your lands are indestructible. Just super, super good. And then this section is just really heavily either protection or very abusable artifacts that we're running. So Gerard's Hourglass Pendant has Flash, and it can shut down extra turn players. So if a player would begin an extra turn, they skip it, which is great. And then it has the 4-tap Exile It, which if it's Earthbent, it can just come right back because that's wild. And then you return all artifact, creature, enchantment, and land cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So it can just be really nice instant speed, like boom, come out there, protection from a board wipe, and it's going to make an opponent's board wipe that was going to be symmetrical and clear everybody's stuff. Now it's a one-sided one that you didn't even have to cast, and it could be protected. So pretty nice. Tomic, Distinguished Advocate, flying, lands on the battlefield, and land cards in the graveyard can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control, and your opponents can't play lands from their graveyard. So it does a little bit of graveyard hate, and it does a lot of protection for our big pieces. Kutzel, Malaman Exemplar, it's just stopping them from messing with us on our turn, and then it can also let us draw some cards, because we can earthbend stuff, and then if any of those hit anything, that is going to be a creature with greater power than its base. So it's card draw, protection, really nice. The Stasis Coffin. I've seen this a few different places, and the Stasis Coffin, I've had this for a while, and I've always thought, like, where would you use this? Well, Toph got printed, and this is the best list I could ever think of for the Stasis Coffin and how to make it disgusting. So yeah, it's 3, and you pay 2 and tap it, you exile the Stasis Coffin, and then you gain protection from everything until your next turn. So your board isn't protected, but you have protection from everything. So it can just be super, super annoying for your opponents to try and have to deal with that nonsense. So, and then with you Earthbend this, it just keeps coming back and back and back. Same thing with good old Mindslaver. So if you did want to make this deck a little less oppressive, then I think Stasis Coffin and Mindslaver would be good options to cut. I think these are, but they're also, Mindslaver is a win condition, right? You can turn a 4-player free-for-all in Commander into a 2-player where you're just always taking someone else's turn. And you can just constantly take whoever you think is the biggest threat's turn until they somehow figure out how to get rid of Mindslaver. And it runs so much protection that it can be pretty easy to, I mean, it can come down, sacrifice, and then now you control the other player, whoever you think might have the removal, or who you might think most likely has key pieces, or whoever you think could use to take out another player. And now you can just continuously loop this until they find a way to deal with your Mindslaver nonsense. So, love Mindslaver for that aspect. Wormcoil Engine, just keep bringing this out, sacking it, killing it somehow, and just making an army of 3/3 Death Touch lifelinks. Super fun. I love Wormcoil Engine. Any artifact deck I can ram it into, I'm going to probably try. Depth Shaker Titan. So I have tinkered with this one as a win condition, and it's worked pretty well. Right, so when this creature enters any number, so you don't have to do everything, but any number of target non-creature artifacts you control become 3/3 artifact creatures, and they sacrifice themselves. So it can be a sack outlet for them, which is nice, but the big thing is they get Menace, Trample, and Haste. And you have all these little eggs out here, you have all these little artifacts, and then you just animate them into 3/3s, and then just make them huge, and just really just chunk through the damage. And of course, one of the main reasons, as soon as I saw Toph, I was like, oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah, Portal to Phyrexia. Let's just abuse this awful, awful artifact, right? So you get this out, and it is just hard for your opponents. You know, because then as soon as you Metal Bend Portal to Phyrexia, it's like, you want it to die, and I'm going to try and sacrifice it, but they don't want that to happen, but they can't exile it, they can't destroy it, so... and then they don't want it to stay in play, because then it's just going to start animating whatever the best thing in a graveyard is, so... super, super funny thing to do. And then we've got some other sort of... We did a lot of Landfall. So we shifted more into the Landfall, and we kind of a mixture of artifacts and Landfall. So we're running Bristly Bill, just really powerful Landfall creature. Springheart Nantuko, just really insane card. You know, whenever a land enters, you can just keep copying whatever the creature you attached it to. And even if you didn't, it's just making an army of 1/1s to block for you. Lotus Cobra, just super nice ramp. Whenever a land enters, you can just add a mana. Same thing here with Nissa. She does have an ability where you can get an elf or elemental. You just keep revealing, which does have some synergy. We do have, you know, an elemental in here, and we have some elves, like Tireless Provisioner. So you can trigger it and you just kind of get to something, and any of the things you get would be pretty nice to get. So this one just lets you get the treasure or the food whenever a land comes into play. It can keep you going. And then Tireless Tracker just lets you, you know, turn your things into card draw. Scoot Swarm, insane. I mean, now your artifacts count, and you're just dropping all these tiny little 1-drops or 0s, and, you know, Cheerioing your way to just having a million Scoot Swarms. Pretty wacky. Earthbender's Ascension, it's just good ramp, you know. I think it's a good value piece here. It Earthbends, which is nice, which really helps us. And then whenever a land comes into play, it can just start making things get a little bit bigger, giving counters, giving trample. But really, it's in here just as a one-shot Earthbend with some ramp. Felidar Retreat, we're Landfall in Naya. This is just an excellent card to just bolster your board pretty heavily, or build you a board if you don't have one. So it can do both sides. Chocobo Raceway, or Racetrack. This one I'm trying out. It's 5, but I think it's pretty fun, right? Whenever a land enters, it makes a 2/2 that then has a landfall trigger to it. So, yeah, I think that could be pretty nice just to make landfall creature tokens. Rampaging Baloths, just same thing here, just makes 4/4s. It's a 6/6 with trample. Avenger of Zendi, classic landfall finisher, right? You just drop this bad boy, make 1,000 plants, and then just start dropping all your artifacts, making them huge. And then I like these. This is a good win con too, because then it gives, I like that time when you have this setup and it's lights out unless the table can get together and figure out a solution. And Avengers Zendikar does that pretty well. Titania, Protector of Argoth. So this one just can help get back some lands if, you know, maybe you milled them or whatever happened. But really, whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, create a 5/3, which can just, now you can just cycle out these sacking artifacts and just turn them into 5/3s. Super, super wild. And then a Shia just turns all, this is just another backup, just turning all of your creatures now into lands that can ramp because they are forests. Wacky. And yeah, we're running Field of the Dead. You know, it's just, it seems Field of the Dead just would go so naturally in Toph. So it's just, you would be able to have so many artifacts with different names. Field of the Dead would just be so clear. Talon Gates of Madara, very good. Phase Out Protection can just be really nice. We are running the snow-covered lands just for, you know, I think any Field of the Dead deck is going to run that. We're going to run Ba Sing Se, run Yavimaya, Cradle of Growth, and then we're going to run Ondu Inversion also. It's just another Wrath that's on the land, and it specifically targets non-land permanents. So very, very specific and one-sided. We're running Jetmir's Garden, Exotic Orchard, and Command Tower as our just base stuff there. We are going to be doing the things that I think Toph does the best, and that's just animating these fetch lands and then just continuously ramping with fetch lands. So that can be pretty fun to do. And then I'm running Sacred Foundry, Sunbillow Verge, Spectator Seating, and Inspiring Vantage as my Boros lands. And then we're going to run Thornspire Verge, Stomping Grounds, Cinder Glade, and Spire Garden as our Gruul. And then we're going to run Hushwood Verge and Temple Garden as our Selesnya lands. And then the rest are just going to be some basics. So I'm running 4 mountains, 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm running 8 forests, and I'm running 3 plains. And I'm trying to just get them all into the avatar arts. Getting close. I'm missing a few, mainly in the forests. But that pretty much wraps it up for this Melon Lord. And I've had a blast. It's been really, really fun. It is incredibly controlling. I think any deck where you're just playing artifacts and your intent is to just loop them around and do crazy things can be pretty wild to run with. But I think what makes this deck so much fun is you're always going to be now looking for any sort of artifact that's going to have an enters and dies trigger, and then you can just constantly swap out that suite of these artifacts and just keep adjusting that amount to have a lot of fun. And it also can target, you know, any sort of land enablement thing. So it can be pretty fun to run Control in Naya, and I've had a blast running it, and you Mindslaver somebody, and then it did the thing. So if you enjoyed this and you like this video, just, you know, drop a like, drop a comment, and subscribe if you like me that much. But outside of that, I will see you guys in the next one.